Right, are you ready for some drama? Welcome to my top 21 most painful tech fails of the entire decade. From just inadequate to catastrophic. Spoiler alert, this is the first time we've ever had a 10 out of 10 fail on one of these lists. Okay, so in 2018, LG revolutionized the way that humans interacted with robots. Just not in a good way. I was actually sitting here in this crowd when they showed to the world LG Chloe, one robot to manage your entire home. And never in my life have I seen excitement turn into so much cringe I want to disappear into my chair this quickly.
Am I ready on my washer and cycle?
He asked a question to it, and for 5 of the longest seconds of my entire life, the whole audience just sat there, eyes wide, waiting to see what this next generation of robots was about to do. We're still waiting, but it only started to get really awkward when he then tried again for a second time.
Chloe, what's for dinner tonight?
Fair play to the guy on stage. He tried to play it off like the robot was just angry at him, but by the time he got blanked for the 3rd time...
Chloe, are you talking to me yet? What recipes could I make with chicken?
The entire audience was just laughing. So I'm giving LG Chloe a 2 out of 10 on the failed scale. Now, when I say the word smartphone to you, what do you think of? Some sort of rectangular glass sandwich, right? Well, the Runcible is what you get when you defy that convention. Or really, to be more specific, it's what you get when you defy every convention. It was world's first circular smartphone. It ditched glass construction for wood. It was even fully user upgradable for sustainability. It's just, it couldn't make phone calls. If you look at the small print on the website, they refer to it as a very small tablet. Which is fine, but what kind of tablet content am I going to consume on a 2.5-inch circular display? 2 out of 10. Anyways, did you know that in 2016, Microsoft created a Twitter account that used artificial intelligence to learn how to talk like a human? They called her Tay, and they said to people, the more you talk to her, the smarter she becomes. Well, in 24 hours, Tay was tweeting some of the most horrific racial slurs on the platform. When she was created, she started off by saying humans were super cool and how she was stoked to meet us. But in less than 1 day, she was trying to start a race war. I'm not even exaggerating. She was swearing, she was quoting Hitler. Because she was learning from every single conversation, the wider population started abusing that, teaching her to say things which were just completely out of order. Tay was sophisticated enough to pick up how humans talked, but she wasn't sophisticated enough to know when she was being led on. And so within 24 hours of being up, Tay was cancelled, which feels like a pretty good general summary of Twitter right now. And a pretty alarming example of why we've got to be so careful with how much power we give to AI. So pretty easy 3 out of 10 fail for this one. And by the way, this video was sponsored by Huel. Got something pretty cool to show you at the end for this. Okay, in late 2019, a very excited Elon Musk walks on stage to show the world Cybertruck. Can you imagine being in this audience with no idea what's coming, no leaks, no images, and then watching as this thing rolls onto stage? People were going wild. I've never seen this many audience members trying to take a photo at the exact same time. The only slight hitch, though, was that they spent a good portion of this event talking about how strong the Cybertruck was. They said it had a virtually impenetrable exoskeleton. They said the glass was practically bulletproof, except when they actually tested it,
oh my God.
They broke it. And they then did what seems to be a common theme here. They tried again. They picked up the same ball, this time threw it at the rear window, and they broke that too. And of course, this clip became the most viewed video about the Cybertruck by a long shot. There are still plenty of people who are excited about this car, but that was awkward. Okay, let's do a rapid fire round for Google here. 3 fails, 3 minutes. Let's go. So first of all was the Nexus Q. It was a media streamer, basically a way for your phone to display content on your TV. Think Chromecast, only worse. It was wildly expensive at $300. It could only stream Google content like Google Play Music, which is also dead, and the New York Times described this as wildly overbuilt for its limited functions, which is not the kind of review that any brand wants. But even more disappointing was Google Glass, because unlike the Nexus Q, which just kind of came out of nowhere and then flopped, people were excited about Glass. Google made trailers like this, showing us the world that we were about to step into. They showed 4 people wearing Glass jumping out of a plane, whilst all still having a Google Hangouts chat. However, There is such a thing as being too early. Google was trying to merge the digital and the physical worlds before the tech was really able to. And so for almost everything it could do, it just had a massive asterisk next to it. You can probably imagine then that this whole concept of dropping $1,500 to effectively beta test a product that did everything your phone did but worse, did not sit well with the average consumer. And the final Google blunder, at least for this video, is Stadia. I remember watching this thing get announced. This whole idea of you being able to just watch some gameplay on YouTube, and if you like the look of it, click one button and jump into that game yourself. All being powered by your internet browser with no downloads and no console needed. I remember nearly spitting my drink out all over my keyboard because, whoa. It's just, trying to stream a game has a lot more complications than trying to stream a movie or a song. Most notably, input lag. Think about it, for every single time I press a key on my controller, that command has to be transmitted wirelessly to my computer. It's then got to find its way all the way towards the servers that are hosting this game, which were often not close at all, process that command to produce an output, and then send that next frame all the way back down to my computer so that I can see what's happening next. Or to put it in a more visual way, this is kind of what the gameplay looked like, and this is on a high-speed internet connection. Input lag was only one of Stadia's many problems, but we do need to cover other things in this video too, like the Wii U. Whew, made it. Thank you. You remember the Wii, right? That console, even though it was about as powerful as my fridge, it changed gaming forever. It was the first time that I'd ever seen 3-year-old kids playing the same games as their 70-year-old grandparents, with both groups loving it. So it's kind of crazy that Nintendo could go straight from highs like this to lows like this. 6 years after the Wii, they decided it was time for its next-gen successor. A console that you could just play normally on your TV, but also with the option to play the entire games using just this new controller with its built-in screen, so other people could use the TV at the same time. I don't think it was a terrible idea, it's just it was executed with all the elegance of a Galaxy Note 7 moments before explosion. There were plenty of issues, but I'd say the primary culprit is just the fact that they called it the Wii U. What does that even mean? And more importantly, doesn't that just make it sound like it's an add-on for the existing Wii? Even CNN's first impressions article of the Wii U called it a solid accessory. That's the equivalent of saying the PlayStation 5 is a solid accessory to the PlayStation 4. CNN! So, easy 5 out of 10 fail here. The Wii U was a colossal flop. And to be honest, if Nintendo hadn't turned things around with the Switch that came after, this could have been the beginning of the end for them. But as we've learned from these videos, you can always do worse. So in 2012, this little box was going viral. Imagine this lady telling you that she was creating a console called the Ouya that for just $99 could play tens of thousands of games, including Minecraft, platformers, shooters, mostly for free. You'd be pretty excited. I mean, just the idea of a console at that kind of price is unheard of. And so it's almost not surprising that Ouya became the second most funded project on Kickstarter, with almost $9 million behind it. But when Ouya finally shipped, it became very clear that its biggest perceived strength was also kind of its biggest weakness. Because it was based on Android, yes, you were getting tens of thousands of games. But what was kind of glossed over was the fact that these were fundamentally games made for phones. At the time, in 2012, very few of them had good controller support. Most of them were just kind of cheaply made with in-app purchases. Plus, when you blow up games that were made for a 4-inch 2012 phone screen to a 40-inch TV, people quickly realized that even calling this a current-gen console was really a push. Alrighty, now for the smart home. Or, in this case, the not very smart home. Picture this, it's 2013, Sony's just announced the PlayStation 4, people are showing off their iPhone 5Cs, jokes on them really, and you feel like making a change in your life. Well, lucky for you, Juicero has come up with a machine that can squeeze you your very own fresh fruit juices, if you buy the machine for $700 and then pay a subscription to get these sachets of cut up fruit to use with it. Do you want to know the funny bit though? You didn't need the machine. Bloomberg posted a 1-minute video showing how they could actually get the exact same juice but faster by squeezing the sachets by hand. And this 1-minute video pretty much brought down the entire operation. And if you are enjoying this video, then a sub to the channel would be juicy. But now is where it starts to get dangerous. There's a company called June. They make smart ovens, and they have genuinely turned what can often be a pretty gross appliance into a piece of art. But people quickly found out that their Dune ovens, at least the first generation of them, could spontaneously turn themselves on and start heating up. Imagine sitting on your bed at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night, and suddenly your oven just randomly hits 200 degrees Celsius in the kitchen below, with no one there to oversee it. That's kind of scary. If there was any food still left in there, or even really scraps from past meals, that could be enough to start a house fire. Dune did fix this with a software update, but yikes. You know what's a level above that? The Amazon Ring security system. No, literally, a security system that puts people at risk. Good job, Amazon. See, what happened was these cameras allowed users to fully see and hear what's happening in any room at any time. And sure, that's incredibly useful. But because such high-level access was only protected by a simple username and password, they could be hacked. Imagine just sitting there in your living room with your family when all of a sudden you hear a voice coming through your security camera.
Pay this 50 Bitcoin ransom or else you will get terminated yourself right now.
And you realize that this entire time someone's been watching you. It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie. And what makes this worse is that these hackers would threaten and sometimes even blackmail the families they were looking at. There was one famous incident where there was an old lady in an apartment and a voice said to her, "Tonight you die." Oh yeah, and also the Amazon Ring smart doorbells, the accompanying product to the cameras, they started spontaneously bursting into flames. So, quite the duo. I mean, obviously this wasn't Amazon's fault, and they did address it with a software update, but what a horrendous oversight. Okay, do you remember when Segways and hoverboards were like the coolest thing on the planet? How it finally felt like we'd figured out a solution to walking. Where did they go? Well, we found out the hard way that Segways were dangerous. You lose focus for just 1 second and you're either in a ditch, a road, or you've already knocked someone over. Even the President of the United States was seen falling off one of these. And this right here shows when a cameraman managed to plow straight into Usain Bolt, world's fastest sprinter. Or at least he was before that. It's actually kind of sad. You know, the owner of the Segway company in 2010, he actually drove a Segway off a cliff. And he died. You know, I was actually going to make an entrance to this video on a Segway, but then partway through doing it, the battery ran out and I fell nearly face first on the ground. They're dangerous. And so it's not really surprising that a lot of governments got involved and basically started banning their use in public spaces. And what really didn't help is that many of these supposed hoverboards, which, let's be honest, were just boards, they started catching on fire. 500,000 of them had to be recalled, which, let's face it, that's enough to ruin any potentially up-and-coming product. So, this is definitely a 7 out of 10 territory. And that leaves us with a few major social media fails leading up to the big number one. And we'll start with our good friends at Facebook. Okay, it's 2018. Facebook has just had one of the biggest data breaches of all time, affecting 50 million users, not to mention arguably the biggest tech scam of the decade, where users' data was extracted from Facebook to be used for political advertising. What a great time to launch a massive Facebook-branded always-on camera, screen, and microphone to sit in people's homes. They called it the Facebook Portal. It wasn't good. In fact, it was actually referred to as the worst tech device of the year, and it was kind of a turning point for a lot of people who realized that they did not trust Facebook. And what makes it worse is that in an interview less than 6 months later, Mark Zuckerberg himself, when trying to give an example of what would be considered going too far when it comes to the invasion of privacy, he said, "We definitely don't want a society where there's a camera in everyone's living room." And while we're at it with Facebook, you might remember that recent January WhatsApp update. They came completely out of the blue with a notification saying that their terms of service had been updated. But they could have worded this a little better. What it came across as was that this update allowed WhatsApp to share its data with Facebook. And people were furious. Because, of course, the implication was that even when you think you're having a private chat with someone, that data is not just not private, but it's actually going to be used to give you even more scarily accurate adverts. Now, given the reputation that Facebook already had at this point, they did not need this. Millions of users started boycotting WhatsApp, and millions not just uninstalled it, but went to competing apps like Signal, and got their entire social group to do the same. Fun fact, I actually got asked to be on radio here in the UK just to talk to people about the best apps they could switch to. And WhatsApp did come out afterwards and say, "Hey, guys, it was a misunderstanding. We didn't mean to do that. We don't share data with Facebook." But that almost makes it more of a fail. They nuked a massive part of their user base just because they couldn't structure their sentences clearly. So that puts this in definite 7 out of 10 territory. And then we've got YouTube. We've got a lot to be grateful for on YouTube. I mean, they're the only reason that I'm able to sit here and talk to you like this. It's amazing. But the one thing that I think we can agree isn't is Rewind. So it's become a bit of a tradition that once per year, YouTube creates a mashup of the most memorable moments that happened on YouTube. And people used to love it. Just being able to see your favorite influencers who never normally would have interacted, dancing together in a room, it's like a really fun version of an award ceremony. But YouTube has progressively killed that sentiment. Instead of the usual 95% like to dislike ratio, as soon as we hit 2016, people started disliking Rewind. This video had something like 87% likes, which is enough to know that something's off. But then 2017 had 68% likes, and 2018 had 13.8% likes. And is still the most disliked video on the entire internet. How does YouTube themselves go that wrong? Well, it seems like the answer is that they've become disconnected from their creators. Like this 2018 Rewind, it started with Will Smith, who YouTube probably got in there because they thought, well, this will make us seem legit.
Fortnite and Marquez Brownlee.
But actually everyone watching this was just thinking, why is Will Smith, actor, in a YouTube Rewind? And the whole video just went on about a bunch of stuff that was kind of significant, but it ignored an alarming amount of the really big stuff. K-pop! Maybe YouTube just wants YouTube to seem like a really family-friendly platform. And so they skipped over all the drama and the controversy, but as far as the viewer and as far as the creators are concerned, that's what makes YouTube YouTube. And so Rewind started to feel less like a one-off super special video that everyone got amped up for, more just like a feel-good PG-rated trailer for YouTube as a service. And don't even get me started on the 2019 Rewind, which was just a countdown of videos that did well, and the 2021, it didn't actually happen. So, you know how it feels like everyone under the age of 30 is on Instagram and TikTok right now? Well, in some alternate universe, they'd all be on an app called Quibi. It stands for Quick Bites, and it was meant to be the Netflix for the up-and-coming generation, where it was still big budget content, but capped at 10 minutes in length. The idea being that more and more, we're consuming content in shorter bursts. We are less about now sitting down for 2 hours at a time watching an entire film, more about spending 10 minutes here, watching a couple of TikTok videos, spending 10 minutes here, flicking through an Instagram feed. So this was quality TV built to replace that time. And it was packing heat. It was led by Meg Whitman, ex-CEO of HP, and Jeffrey Katzenberg, chairman of Walt Disney Studios. And together, these guys managed to raise $1.7 billion in funding. The failure came though, because this was like an older person's view of what younger people want. It was built for the 20 to 35 age group, but by people who were over 60. What they needed to do was to get those same YouTubers and TikTokers that this generation was engaging with to create special high production value content for them. But what they actually did was to just get a whole load of A-list Hollywood celebrities instead. It was a star-studded cast, don't get me wrong, but I think they misjudged their audience. And I also think that they somewhat devalued their own product by capping it at 10 minutes. Because as densely packed with celebrities as these videos were, we've kind of got used to the idea of not paying for short video. So within 7 months of launching, Quibi flopped. And with it, the $1.7 billion they managed to raise. Gone. And to just give you some context on how much money that is, it's enough to build a bridge halfway around the world, made only of PlayStation 5 consoles. Yes, these are the kinds of examples my brain comes up with. But now we are stepping it up another level, because in July of last year, there was a hackening. 130 of the most high-profile Twitter accounts were hacked in one go. We're talking people like Barack Obama, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, but also YouTubers like MrBeast, even the official Apple account. But it's worse than that. It's not just that these hackers gained access to these guys' accounts, it's that they actively use them to scam their followers. What they said to people was, if you send us some Bitcoin, we'll send you back twice as much. And because these tweets were coming from verified accounts that people trust, I guess their audiences must have just thought, we've hit the jackpot. They were throwing money in their direction. And because it's Bitcoin we're talking about, these transactions are irreversible. So, which group of masterminds came up with this? 3 teenagers. And thankfully all they wanted was to earn some quick money, because if this was done by someone with more malicious intentions, with that kind of power, the ability to speak on behalf of anyone in the world, you could start a war. So 8 out of 10 fail for this one. Now, in any list of tech fails made in 2021, we can't not talk about Cyberpunk. For those of you who don't know about it, this was the biggest, most hyped video game of the entire decade. It only just released a couple of months ago, but we've been seeing trailers of it since 2013. And sure, I mean, if it's that revolutionary, we'll wait 7 years after seeing the first trailer. But this wasn't that, and I don't think anybody would have predicted how badly it was going to backfire. In a very best case scenario, you got a buggy mess. We're talking random teleportations, ridiculous graphical glitches, people flying through walls, and pretty much everything else you can think of. But worse still, if you bought this game on a last-gen PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, which I imagine most people did, then it looked and ran about as good as me after Uber Eats went 50% off. And it's not just the fact that when this game launched, it wasn't even close to ready, it's the fact that the company behind it, CD Projekt Red, they tried to hide it. They restricted access to early copies so reviewers couldn't even warn people. So you can probably imagine that when all of this became public, their stock price plummeted. They got demolished on social media. They had multiple class action lawsuits filed against them. But the worst bit, these guys were maliciously hacked. And it's tough to say for sure whether this was linked to the game or not, but it would be a pretty huge coincidence if not. Someone got into their servers and basically took every bit of secretive data they could find. Info about how the company runs, their employees, their accounts, and even the source code of the game, which can be used to create an unlimited number of new copies of it. And then the hackers sold all that information. Cyberpunk is the biggest video game disaster that I've ever seen in my life. 9 out of 10 fail. Now, we've already seen some alarming things on this list, some things that might worry you, but imagine your worry if you saw this message pop up on your phone. Ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter, this is not a drill. This was a message that was sent one day in 2018 to every TV, radio, and smartphone in Hawaii. People were already on edge as tensions had been mounting for years with North Korea, and both countries did have nuclear weapons. So this was a very real threat. People must have been losing their minds. But it was a mistake. The entire thing was just one internal miscommunication in the Hawaii emergency facility, and it took them 38 minutes. 38 of probably the most frantic, hellish minutes of these Hawaiians' lives for them to correct it. Okay, just before the big number 1, I do have a full series on this channel just about smartphone fails. I'll leave that link down below. And let me know if you've got like a favorite tech fail that you'd want to see in the next episode of this series. So, number 1, and this is the first time that I've ever awarded a fail anything above a 9 out of 10. We're talking about Theranos. I know what you're thinking, not Thanos. Let me introduce you to a lady called Elizabeth Holmes, who saw an opportunity in medical tech. She realized that the current way blood was being tested for diseases and cancers was super inefficient, because every single test scientists wanted to do required a separate vial of blood. So she basically created a machine that could just take one tiny blood sample, and with that, do over 240 tests on it, all at once, all at a fraction of the cost. This could have changed medicine forever. This could have changed every single one of our lives. This woman was a hero, an inspiration. She was often referred to as the female Steve Jobs because of how she loved these turtlenecks. Her company reached a valuation of $9 billion. Think of the PS5 bridge you could build with that. But it was all founded on lies. Right from the very beginning, this machine did not do what she said it did. She claimed to investors that it had been used in the military and that it had been used in emergency rooms, but it hadn't. This Theranos company, they didn't even themselves use these machines. They would tell these investors, yeah sure, of course we can give you a demo of our tech. And they would take their blood samples, go into a back room and test it using conventional methods, come back in, and claim their machines had done it. So anyone who'd actually used one of these machines to get their blood results was very likely misdiagnosed. And when you think of the severity of being told that you have cancer when you don't, or even worse, being told that you don't when you do, This is bad. So bad that the entire company had to shut down. So bad that Elizabeth Holmes is on trial. So bad that there's an award-winning documentary made about her scam, and even apparently an entire feature film in the works with Jennifer Lawrence playing as her. I think this is worthy of a 10 out of 10 fail. Okay, by the time I finish this sentence, you have watched me make my very own Thai green curry. That's literally it. You get your Huel powder, you mix it into hot water, cover it, and leave it for 5 minutes. This is not a protein shake or a liquid meal replacement, it is an actual meal that you can have for lunch or dinner, made from brown rice, quinoa, pea protein, flaxseed, coconuts, just good ingredients. And if you didn't know, I've actually been having Huel myself for 4 years before the company actually reached out and wanted to sponsor a video, because fundamentally, it fits well in my life. I care about my health, but I just don't have the time, or arguably the skills, to manually cook 3 full meals a day. So give it a try. I've left a special link below, and if you click that link it will not just help to support the channel, but if you do decide to buy Huel, you will get not just the Huel, but also 2 scoops, a pot to cook it in, and a free Huel t-shirt. They are really good t-shirts. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'll catch you in the next one.